Welcome to the California Community Reinvestment Grants Program Phase 1 Technical Assistance Webinar for Fiscal Year 2022-23. In this presentation, we will be discussing CalCRG Program Background and Priority Population, Application Timeline, Eligible Applicants, Funding Requirements and Grant Size, Eligible Services, and Application Submittal. First, I want to stress how important it is for all applicants to review the entire fiscal year 2022-23 CalCRG program grant solicitation before submitting the application. The grant solicitation is posted on our website, seen here, and the grant solicitation is linked directly below the resources heading. Even if you are already familiar with the program, please be sure to read the entire grant solicitation, as some information has changed since last year's application. Under the Resources heading, there is also a Frequently Asked Questions document to assist you and an online application portal user guide outlining each step of the process of creating and submitting an application. Next, I will be discussing the CalCRG program background and priority populations. The CalCRG program was included in the Adult Use of Marijuana Act, Proposition 64, which was approved by California voters on November 8, 2016. In accordance with the proposition, GO-Biz will award grants to local health departments and at least 50% to qualified community-based nonprofit organizations. Funds support job placement, mental health treatment, substance use disorder treatment, system navigation services, legal services to address barriers to reentry, and linkages to medical care for communities that were disproportionately affected by past federal and state drug policies, also known as the War on Drugs. The War on Drugs refers to the effort in the United States since the 1970s to combat illegal drug use by greatly increasing penalties, enforcement, and incarceration for drug offenders. Decades of federal and state policies drastically increased funding for drug control and enforcement agencies while imposing harsh penalties for even low-level, nonviolent drug offenses. The War on Drugs has disproportionately impacted communities of color, particularly low-income African American and Latino populations. Harsh federal and state drug policies were enacted during the War on Drugs, such as mandatory minimum prison sentencing, 3 strikes laws, and longer prison sentences for offenses involving crack cocaine compared to those involving the same amount of powder cocaine. These policies led to many individual, family, and community-level consequences, such as mass incarceration, decreased access to social services, loss of educational attainment, prohibitions on the use of public housing and other public assistance, and the separation of families. The CalCRG program aims to be a resource to address the multi-generational impacts of the War on Drugs. Individuals from populations and communities in California that were disproportionately impacted by the War on Drugs represent the CalCRG program priority population. Services are not limited only to formerly incarcerated individuals, but applicants must describe how the population and clients they are proposing to serve have been affected by past federal and state drug policies. Applicants' alignment with the CalCRG priority population is addressed in the application at 3 main levels. First, proposed services must be for communities within eligible geographic areas. On page 5 of the grant solicitation, a list of eligible counties is provided, as well as an interactive online mapping tool to identify eligible census tracts. In their application responses, applicants will describe the characteristics of the major populations and clients they serve, and how they have been disproportionately impacted by the War on Drugs. This information should clearly indicate that the applicant organization primarily serves individuals, families, and communities that have been disproportionately impacted by drug enforcement activities, criminal justice system involvement, and/or related consequences of the War on Drugs. CalCRG program priorities include proposals from organizations led by individuals directly impacted by the War on Drugs, organizations that serve formerly incarcerated individuals, organizations placing individuals in jobs, organizations that are grassroots in nature, and that provide whole person trauma-informed care. The CalCRG application is divided into 2 phases. All eligible applicants may complete a Phase 1 application. The link to the online application portal and a detailed application guide are available on our website. Phase 1 applications are due September 15th, 2022, no later than 4:59 p.m. At that time, the application portal automatically closes. No exceptions to this deadline will be granted for any reason. It is very important for applicants to plan ahead to submit the application well before this deadline in case they encounter any technical difficulties, issues, or delays. Phase 1 applications will be scored, and only those applicants that pass Phase 1 will be invited to proceed to Phase 2 of the application process. An email with instructions for applying to Phase 2 will be sent to the email address listed for the person designated as the primary contact in the contact information section of the application. The Phase 2 application is expected to be released on approximately December 5th, 2022. Phase 2 evaluation and awards are expected to be completed around May 2023 with a grant term start date of June 1st, 2023. Next, I will discuss CalCRG eligible applicants. Eligible applicants are defined in detail in the CalCRG grant solicitation. Please review these eligibility requirements carefully before applying. Eligible applicants include local health departments, which are defined as any of the 61 California identified local government health departments with a legally appointed health officer. They are listed at cdph.ca.gov. Community-based nonprofit organizations, or CBOs, are defined as organizations established and focused on issues and concerns at the community level that are representative of the populations or significant segments of the populations they provide services to in that community. All CBOs that apply for a grant from the CalCRG program must meet all the requirements listed in the grant solicitation. Please be sure to check your organization's status with respect to each of the requirements before applying. CBOs must have been duly organized, in existence, and in good standing for at least 6 months prior to the date the grant solicitation is issued by GO-Biz. Be registered with the California Secretary of State's office with an active status. Have a tax-exempt status with both the Internal Revenue Service and the California Franchise Tax Board. Have a registry status of current or exempt with the California Attorney General's Registry of Charitable Trusts. Have any other state or local licenses or certifications necessary to provide the services requested, and have a physical address in California. Proposed services must be for communities within eligible geographic areas. On page 5 of the grant solicitation, a list of eligible counties is provided, as well as an interactive online mapping tool to identify eligible census tracts. Applicants can use this mapping tool to search for their service area by typing in an address or selecting an area on the map, and the tool will confirm if the area is within an eligible census tract. Eligible counties are those with a per capita drug-related arrest rate higher than the state average. Eligible census tracts are those with the highest rates of civilian unemployment and poverty, one-parent or non-family households, lowest educational attainment, and census tracts designated in California as an opportunity zone. Existing CalCRG program grantees are eligible to apply only if their existing CalCRG program grant has been in effect for at least 12 months and they have expended at least 50% of their existing grant as evidenced by invoices submitted and approved by the Phase 1 application due date. Please note that an organization may only be listed in one application. For this fiscal year, the CalCRG program is not accepting collaborative applications. Next, I will discuss funding requirements and grant size. The CalCRG program is a reimbursement-only model. Advances are currently not available. Grantees will pay for the expenses first, provide an itemized invoice with receipts and supporting documentation to the CalCRG program at least quarterly, and receive reimbursement via check. Applicants should ensure their organization is able to fund the initial months of the program and has the capacity to properly document all expenses and submit invoices at least quarterly to the CalCRG program. A total of $48 million is available for the current application. 50% of this will be reserved for small CBOs, defined as CBOs with annual revenue of $5 million or less. Applicants may request a minimum of $600,000 and a maximum of $3 million. The total request amount is for the entire 3-year grant term, In other words, a $600,000 request represents $200,000 per year for the 3 years of the grant term. The CalCRG program focuses on funding direct service delivery. Grantees are required to use at least 75% of their grant funds to pay for direct personnel costs. This means the wages and benefits of the organization's employees who will deliver the proposed services. Please note this only includes employees whose wages are reported on a W-2 and who are employed directly by the organization applying for the grant, and who will be providing the services described in the application. This does not include workers who are independent contractors whose wages are reported on a 1099. They are considered subcontractors. It also does not include the cost of subsidized wages of program participants or clients. When determining what size grant to request from CalCRG, please keep in mind that 75% of the funds must be allocated to personnel costs. Up to 17% may be allocated to indirect costs. The remaining percentage of grant funds remain available for other direct costs like employee training, supplies, equipment and materials, client support items, mileage, subcontract expenses, etc. Personnel and indirect costs are reimbursed at a rate of 100%, meaning if $2,000 is spent on an eligible personnel or indirect cost, all $2,000 may be claimed for reimbursement from the CalCRG program. All other direct costs are reimbursed at a rate of 50% of the cost, meaning if $2,000 is spent on an eligible other direct cost, the $2,000 expenditure must be documented on the grantee's invoice, but only half, or $1,000, will be reimbursed by the CalCRG program. Please keep in mind when creating your CalCRG budget that if you plan to allocate any funds to other direct costs, other funding sources will need to cover the remaining 50% of other direct costs not reimbursed by the CalCRG program. Use of subcontractors should be limited and will need to be explained and thoroughly justified in the Phase 2 application. If considering the use of subcontractors, please note that subcontracted costs are reimbursed by CalCRG at a rate of 50% of the costs. They may not exceed $200,000 or 20% of the total grant award, whichever is less, and subcontracts for evaluation may not exceed $30,000. Applicants should carefully consider what size grant is most appropriate for their organization's size, program needs, and administrative capacity. As part of the Phase 2 application evaluation process, the applicant's financial capacity and experience administering grants will be evaluated, and the amount requested will be compared to the applicant's annual total revenue to ensure the organization is not exclusively dependent on CalCRG grant funds. When determining the grant amount, applicants should consider a few factors. First, consider the organization's annual total revenue. Here are some guidelines. The total amount requested from CalCRG is for a 3-year period. Divide that total by 3 to consider 1 year's worth of CalCRG funding. 1 year's worth of funding from CalCRG should ideally represent no more than about 30% of the organization's total annual revenue. Another way to think of this is to look at the organization's total annual revenue and request no more than that amount for the duration of the 3-year grant term. Given these parameters, it's a good idea for an organization whose annual total revenue is less than $700,000 to strongly consider requesting the minimum CalCRG grant size of $600,000. Next, consider the organization's experience administering grants of a similar size and model. Applications will be more competitive if the amount requested is similar in size to grants successfully administered in the past. Another important consideration is the organization's available resources and cash flow to implement the proposed services. Again, the grantee must be able to fund the initial months of proposed services and invoice the CalCRG program after expenses are incurred. Finally, consider the organization's administrative capacity and sound financial practices. Ensure your organization has considered the fiscal and administrative capacity needed to implement the proposal, properly administer the grant, track and document expenses, and keep up with the ongoing administrative work of quarterly invoicing and reporting. Needs to consider may include administrative or fiscal personnel, payroll software, client management systems, functional timesheets, established financial policies and procedures, and internal controls. Anticipating your direct personnel costs for service delivery is a key consideration, as this will represent at least 75% of the grant budget. Factor in your indirect costs, which may represent up to 17% of the total grant award amount. And finally, consider whether you will need to include any other direct costs, keeping in mind these will represent a relatively minor percentage of the budget and will be reimbursed at a rate of 50% of the cost. Additionally, please also note that the amount requested on the Phase 1 application may not increase when the applicant submits the Phase 2 application. Next, I will discuss CalCRG eligible services. Proposed services must fall within one or more of the funding categories defined in the CalCRG Program grant solicitation. Applicants may propose services within one category or multiple categories. Applications are not considered any more or less competitive based on the number of service categories addressed. Applicants should be able to determine that for each service category addressed in the application, the organization has the necessary competencies and experience to provide the proposed services for its priority populations. Please carefully read the eligible services section of the grant solicitation, where each service category is defined and examples of eligible and ineligible services are listed. The job placement category should only be selected if the applicant organization is directly responsible for placing people in jobs and can verify the job placement and job retention of clients. This typically means working directly with an employer partner or partners to connect job applicants with job opportunities and support them in preparing for the job, getting the job, and keeping the job. Services in this category must be focused on placing clients in long-term full-time jobs with W-2 reportable earnings. Services in connection with job placement, such as skill assessments, career planning, job training, resume preparation, are eligible but must accompany a job placement deliverable. Grantees in this category are responsible for reporting the number of job placements each quarter that they were directly responsible for facilitating and must be able to track and verify their job placement and job retention deliverables. The job placement services should be performed directly by the applicant, not referred to an external partner. If the applicant organization is referring clients to another program for job placement assistance and is not directly responsible for facilitating the job placement, then that is considered a referral better aligned with the system navigation services category. Similarly, services that support self-employment and entrepreneurship may be eligible for CalCRG. But because these would not result in W-2 reportable earnings, these services would fall under system navigation services as well. The mental health treatment category is for services geared towards helping clients achieve mental well-being through either clinical or non-traditional means. A number of examples of eligible services are detailed in the grant solicitation, including psychotherapy, case management, support groups and healing circles, complementary and alternative medicine, arts and creative therapy, and outpatient mental health treatment. Ineligible services include preventative care. This refers to care or services provided prior to or absent of symptoms or a diagnosis identified by a mental health professional or other subject matter expert. Activities open to the general public, for example, would not be a good fit as it would be unknown whether participants have symptoms or a diagnosis. Grantees in this category are responsible for directly providing the proposed mental health treatment services and tracking and reporting client outcomes. If the grantee is only providing referrals to mental health treatment, this activity would belong under system navigation services. The substance use disorder treatment services category is for services that help clients recover from substance use disorder through clinical or non-traditional means. A number of examples of eligible services are detailed in the grant solicitation, including individual and group counseling, short-term treatment that focuses on detoxification, medication-assisted treatment, and recovery support services. Community awareness and education efforts specific to substance use disorder may be included but should accompany more direct service treatments. Ineligible services include preventative care, which is care or services prior to or absent of symptoms or a diagnosis identified by a substance use disorder treatment professional or other subject matter expert. Grantees in this category are responsible for directly providing the proposed substance use disorder treatment services and tracking and reporting client outcomes. If the grantee is only providing referrals to substance use disorder treatment, the activity belongs under the System Navigation Services category. System navigation services help clients navigate and access resources and systems to advance their economic, physical, and emotional well-being. Typically, system navigation services include needs assessments that inform case management and that may link clients with services that remove barriers or help meet client-specific needs. Grantees in this category are responsible for facilitating referrals and linkages to services and should be able to track and report client outcomes, including verifying whether clients successfully received the services. Several examples of eligible services are detailed in the grant solicitation and include resource identification and referrals, such as referrals to other organizations and service providers, services useful for reentering society and building economic security, such as opening bank accounts, obtaining a driver license, finding subsidized housing, services that help individuals enroll in and use public benefits, tax filing support and financial literacy services, and other services that meaningfully support clients' economic, physical, and emotional well-being. Referrals for job placement services, mental health treatment, substance use disorder treatment, legal services, and linkages to medical care all fall under this category if the delivery of the actual service is not performed by the grantee's employees, but rather the grantee is connecting clients to another provider who delivers these services. Ineligible services in this category include linkages to services that are merely recreational in nature or that do not clearly indicate potential to significantly advance clients' well-being. Legal services to address barriers to reentry are geared toward helping clients reenter society after incarceration in jail or prison. This is the only CalCRG program service category that must be exclusively for individuals who are currently or formerly incarcerated. Services may be delivered to individuals currently or formerly in jail, prison, or juvenile detention. Several examples of eligible services are detailed in the grant solicitation, including services related to record analysis or background checks, expungement, sealing a criminal record, or other post-conviction relief, employment or licensing barriers, obtaining or regaining a driver license, denial of housing applications, criminal justice debt, immigration services to address barriers to reentry, community awareness and education efforts specific to addressing legal barriers to reentry. Ineligible services include legal services that do not serve formerly incarcerated populations and/or do not address barriers to reentry. Grantees in this category employ the individuals providing the legal services and use CalCRG program grant funds to pay for their personnel time. If the grantee organization is simply connecting the clients to legal service providers who are employed elsewhere, the activity belongs under System Navigation Services. Linkages to medical care refers to services that help clients secure medical services. A number of examples of eligible services are detailed in the grant solicitation, including linking people directly to medical services, or linking healthcare providers, community organizations, and public health agencies to improve patients' access to preventative and medical care services. Grantees in this category are responsible for facilitating clients' access to medical care beyond health insurance enrollment, often coordinating their linkage to medical providers, helping coordinate care, and addressing barriers like transportation. Grantees in this category must be able to track and report client outcomes, including verifying whether clients successfully received the medical services. Ineligible services include directly providing medical care, subsidizing clients' medical costs or providing free medication, and linking individuals with non-medical services. Next, I will discuss the process to submit a CalCRG application. Before submitting the Phase 1 application, be sure to review the application components and requirements section of the grant solicitation and the online application portal user guide posted on our website. Applications must be submitted via the online portal. Each person is a unique user and must register for an account tied to their unique email address. Users will create a profile, log in, select Create New Application, and complete each section of the online application. The online application portal user guide includes a step-by-step guide on how to create a profile and a new application, how to add multiple users to the same application, and how to complete and submit each component of the application. Again, it is located on our website under the Resources section. The online application includes 5 sections: applicant information, contact information, the proposal summary, Form 990 exempt organization tax return information, and Phase 1 required documents. Please note that the Form 990 exempt organization tax return information section must be completed whether or not an organization has ever filed a Form 990. Please see detailed instructions in the grant solicitation and the online application portal user guide for more information. Please note that a primary contact must be designated for the application. This will be the main point of contact that GO-Biz will communicate with during the application and evaluation period. The primary contact's email address should be regularly monitored. The primary contact may be a grant writer, but an employee of the applicant organization must also be included as a contact. Multiple contacts may be added, but please note that adding a contact does not grant them access to the application. Each user must create a profile, each using their own unique email address in the CalCRG portal. Then the existing application user can add them individually. For step-by-step instructions, please see the Authorizing Contact section of the online application portal user guide. Applicants will enter the total amount requested for the 3-year grant term, select the funding category or categories, and answer programmatic suitability questions related to their competencies and experience and the community impacts of the war on drugs. Answers should be as detailed and specific as possible. Please be sure to address all the components. For the proposal summary, provide a 1 to 2 sentence summary of proposed services for each funding category selected, a brief overview of how grant funds requested will be used, such as information about the personnel allocations, indirect rate, and other direct costs, and the projected number of individuals to be served. Answers in this section should provide a very clear description of the proposal, use of grant funds, and the projected number of individuals to be served, and overall should show that the proposal aligns with the CalCRG program requirements and priorities. For the competencies and experience section, the applicant will respond to these questions. What is your organization's mission and core competencies? How is your organization suited to address the needs of your priority population? And describe your organization's experience providing services in your community or service area and how those relate to the proposed services in this grant application. Answers should provide a very strong indication that the organization has the necessary competencies and experience to provide the proposed services for its priority populations. For the community impacts from the War on Drugs section, the applicant will respond to these questions. How has the geographical area your organization is proposing to serve with the grant funds requested been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs? How have the individuals your organization is proposing to serve with the grant funds requested been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs? And describe the characteristics of the major populations or clients that your organization has served historically, particularly in the last year. Include information about their demographics, social and economic well-being, and family or individual challenges. Answers should provide a very strong indication that the geographical area and priority populations resemble the priority populations as intended in Proposition 64 and identified in the grant solicitation. And they should provide a very strong indication that the applicant primarily serves individuals, families, or communities that have been disproportionately impacted by drug enforcement activities, criminal justice system involvement, and/or related consequences of the war on drugs. The required documents differ between the 2 eligible applicant types, and these must be uploaded with the Phase 1 application. Community-based nonprofit organizations must upload Payee Data Record Standard 204 form, which is available on our website, the organization's most recently filed IRS Form 990, and screenshots from the websites of the following entities which show the organization currently has an eligible status. These entities include the California Secretary of State, the California Franchise Tax Board, the Internal Revenue Service, and the California Attorney General's Registry of Charitable Trusts. Links to each of these sites are provided in the Phase 1 Required Documents section of the grant solicitation. Local health departments are required to upload a completed government agency taxpayer ID form. This form is also available on our website. Each section of the application must be marked complete. The Submit button will not be enabled until each section is marked complete. An application may be recalled and edited until the deadline to submit. Please ensure you resubmit the application if any changes are made. Once submitted, an applicant can print a PDF copy of the completed application by clicking the Print Application button, and a PDF of the application will be populated. Applications are due via the online portal September 15th, 2022, no later than 4:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. GO-Biz will first conduct a technical review and applications will be verified for completeness and eligibility. Incomplete or ineligible applications may be disqualified. Information will be shared via email to the primary contact designated in the application. Phase 1 evaluation and scoring will then be completed. See the Phase 1 evaluation process and scoring criteria section in the grant solicitation for more information. Invitations to submit a Phase 2 application will be provided by email to applicants that pass the Phase 1 application evaluation stage. GO-Biz anticipates these invitations to Phase 2 will be sent December 5th, 2022. However, this date is subject to change. For questions, please contact the CalCRG team by email at calcrg@gobiz.ca.gov or by phone at 916-322-2683. Thank you for your interest in the California Community Reinvestment Grants Program.